Real Enigmas and Theories is back again with another video. It was May 13th, 2023. I decided to get on YouTube and make a page and drop some of my thoughts about the TV show called From. I did the video and released my first video on May 14th. Being of Native American heritage, a history buff, and somewhat of an esoteric philosopher, this show spoke to me in a unique way. Not only the enigmatic posture of the show, but the slightly humorous nature of the series reached out to my sense of humor, which I've been displaying in some of my videos. This series opens up the doors for various types of theorizers to dig into, from the surface all the way down to the tunnels. Let's get into some of the clues that I believe that point to ancient magic, events in American history which created this place, and possible bloodline family tree ties with current and ancestral association. So without further ado, let's jump in. And after we sort through a few things, I will tell you who I think is in the cart and give you a prediction for the next season. So I'll start with the most obvious pattern of clues to me, which is the presence of Native American magic or sorcery. The Native American symbolism stood out to me like a big dude at the pool party getting in the water with his t-shirt on. From the character wardrobe to the actual filming location of the show in Nova Scotia. I've been speaking about these nuances since my first video, and the show continued to confirm my theory from episode 1 all the way to the last episode. Native American medicine wheels can be seen all over Fromily, even within the tunnels where it was revealed to Jade that the children were laying on a circle of stones. Khatri meditated within a circle of stones, where he buried items he brought to town with him. Even the infamous box sat in the middle of a circle of stones and was essentially a place of sacrifice and punishment. Also at the choosing ceremony, a rock and a flower are placed within a circle of stones. And that choosing rite wouldn't even be possible if not for the next clue, which is the talismans. On them, you can see a figure sitting legs crossed or Indian style in the center. And the F symbols, if all converge to the center, make a spider web. Which brings us to another notion about this clue that is the actual core of this sentiment, and that's the ancient Native American grandmother spider deity. Her themes are enchanted items and growth. Her symbols are woven items and spiders. The spider motif has been in the show since episode 1, when Ethan told everyone about his dream in the RV. We see spiders in Victor's drawings. Boyd and Sarah were taken to spider webs and Boyd was bitten by the spiders. Also, a group of spiders is called a colony. So there's Colony House. We have plenty of Native American style print in the wardrobe and many woven items as well. Donna's gift to Fatima was a dream catcher, and we see other dream catchers around Colony House. We even have a shamanic succession ritual with Victor and Ethan, which I go into depth in my video called Ethan the Shaman. By the way, when you watch that video, keep in mind that Ethan still has that staff with him. Kenny even mentions to Christy about being a thread in a sweater. There's another woven item. Elgin also shared his story about his grandmother teaching him to crochet, which is a form of weaving, and this clue points directly to the grandmother spider deity. I actually pointed out the grandmother spider deity before that episode even aired. So when I saw Elgin sitting there talking about crocheting with his grandmother, you already know I was hyped and took out my notepad right away. Elgin is also seen teaching Tilly how to crochet, and she's also a grandmother. But peep this, I'm sure that when he taught her, he had to instruct her on how to complete a tabby, which is the easiest and most basic stitch to create. Tabby is also the short nickname for Tabitha. And speaking of Tilly, she is also who we see doing a rain dance, which is also a Native American trope. And as I stated before, The filming location, Nova Scotia, is home to the Micmac tribe, whose actual symbol is the grandmother spider deity and the dreamcatcher. There are more Native American motifs throughout the show as well, and that brings us to another possible element in our clues that could be responsible for creating fromily and could perhaps tie at least some of our residents' ancestors to this place. In a couple of my previous videos, I made a connection to the Jim Crow era, the movie Roots and Jade, and the Negro Regiment Civil War soldiers that appeared on the show. Now, Jim coming back from the RV with some of the Matthews belongings is what sparked this entire revelation. This was episode 3 of season 1. Jim brought back some books with him, and one of them was the Chromanacle book. However, the first option presented to Ethan was a book called The Adventures of the Grand Gulagog, which bears a striking resemblance to a real book called Adventures of Two Dutch Dolls in the Gollywog. Not only do the names Gulagog and Gollywog sound similar, but the cover of the Gulagog book looks like the Gollywog characters that sprung up during the time of Jim Crow. I've also pointed out that Jim imitated the Crow, and the late son of Jim and Tabby was named Thomas, which is also the name of the person who created the Jim Crow minstrel character, Thomas Dartmouth Rice. This clue is not saying that the Matthews ancestral connection is with Jim Crow. I see it as leaving a breadcrumb to the shameful past of some events in American history is what spawned the evil that created this place. And as time went on, more shameful events contributed to that evil and connecting descendants to this place to help free the trapped spirits or continue the cycle of evil. I also pointed out a possible connection to Jade and his Civil War visions, along with a connection to slavery. I explained that Jade's French heritage could have been a possible link to Napoleon III. During the Civil War, Napoleon III publicly maintained his neutrality in regards to the American conflict. However, the Civil War created a really bad cotton famine in France, which uncommonly known encouraged Napoleon III to covertly support the Confederate States' recognition as a separate nation. I also pointed out Jade's connection to contemporary slavery with his tech company and the slave mining of the cobalt material, which goes on to this day. Jade is who discovered the roots in the tunnels, and yet he has another connection to Roots. Jade, who can be seen wearing a shirt with cats on it, plays the fiddle and rode into town with a companion named Toby. Toby and Fiddler are two characters from the slavery-themed movie Roots, starring LeVar Burton and Louis Gossett Jr. These connections were pretty deep. Again, I see these connections to American history as implications to the events that contributed to the evil that was used to create this place, and the residents' ancestral background and/or associations that have brought them to this place. Here's the video about Jade's Civil War connection. I've discussed this theory with a friend of mine named Taryn Mathereau, and he cited to me an actual event in American history that could definitely be linked to the burnt Civil War soldier, and also one of the dates on the wall in Tabby's dream, the massacre at Fort Pillow. The massacre at Fort Pillow is where over 300 Negro Regiment Union soldiers who had surrendered and waved the white flag to an outnumbering 1,500 Confederate soldiers were massacred in cold blood, and some of their bodies were burned, and they were led by Nathan Bedford Forrest. Wasn't Nathan the name of Sarah's brother? But yes, indeed, shout out to Taryn Mathereau for that connection. There's no doubt in my mind that the origins of Fromland are connected to shameful events in history that bled evil seeds into the soil, only to be nourished by the worship and practice of ancient magic to sprout Fromland and trapped entities, and a battle or game that's being played by the lineage of its contributors. From Bacta's grandmother teaching her the nursery rhyme, to Abby being reminded of a dream as a little girl, it's clear that something is hand-picking these travelers to join in on something that has been going on for a long time. The dates in Tabby's dream, the buildings that appear to be from different time periods, the slow walkers having a different temporal appearance, and even ruins of structures that our residents can visit to a time where the structure stood sound and functional. We see that it was used to imprison Martin, suggesting that this game had been played even around at the time of this structure's functional period, and still being played amongst the ruins of this structure to this day. And speaking of ruins, there seems to be ruins near the root cellar where Boyd and Kenny were walking and the ballerina showed up. The biggest clue about bloodlines, ancestry, and association being the reason for our residents being brought here has to be the Matthews family and the little piece of Lonely Dragon's treasure. The bracelet of Jim's father's bootlaces just showing up in this place, and the revelation of Miranda wearing the homemade accessory is not just a head scratcher, but Ethan asking about his grandfather and revealing that the man is dead suggests the grandpop's significance to this story. The mention of Tabby's parents as well, twice in the series, will probably bear some significance now that we've seen that she seems to have made it out. Now the trailer shows us that snow is on the ground, and as far as we know, this has never happened. But amongst all of the Native American clues left behind, I remember seeing a Native American snowshoe in the Lonely Dragon storage room, which suggests that maybe Winter had been there before. Now, as far as who I think is in the cart, I think there are multiple bodies in the cart, and that's why it takes two people to pull it. We seen Boyd transport Frank to the church by himself already, and at least one of them I believe to be this girl right here. We don't know her name, but I think that this is her garment hanging from the cart. She can be seen wearing this shirt at Colony House after Paula was broken. And I think that this was her in season 1 on the porch while Fatima was speaking to Julie. She can also be seen by the staircase when Donna and Bacta were talking. And judging by size, she also looks like a fit for one of those feet. I think there will be another massacre, or at least a few deaths, along with a major one, and this girl might be one of the victims. One thing about it is some deaths happening would ultimately solve the food shortage problem that's being kept a secret from the residents by Donna. Also, the voice on the radio, it's Donna who suggests to keep that a secret as well. Communication. Communication is something that the residents of this town seem not to have any concept of whatsoever. However, communicating with the dead or voices from another place is something that happens more often than the residents actually sharing information with each other. Now, communicating with voices from another place or communicating with the dead is known as necromancy. Jim and Jade's radio, Boyd's communication with Abby and Cautry, Victor, Ethan, Tabitha, and Sarah seeing the boy in white, Sarah hearing voices, Tabitha and the mangy kids, all forms of necromancy. In fact, seeing this quick still shot from season 2 in the season 3 trailer reminds me that ventriloquism has its origins in necromancy. Although in the current times, ventriloquism is familiar to most as entertainment, its origins are far from an episode of Lamb Chop's Play Along. Even though the show From is kind of like the song that never ends, ventriloquist, or engastrament, were people believed to have demons or spirits in their stomach and could speak from the belly. Engaster, the stomach, and mythos, meaning words or speech. Even the word ventriloquist comes from the Latin words venter, meaning belly, and loque, meaning to speak from the belly. And speaking of the belly, season 2, episode 7 was entitled Belly of the Beast. In that episode, Donna claimed to know that the food shortage would be minor and temporary. Does she have knowledge of an impending massacre that would solve that problem? Anyway, gastromancy was an ancient practice of the Greeks and Romans to perform necromancy and fortune telling. And even today, ventriloquism is used to make something that is not alive appear to be alive. Ventriloquism began to transition into entertainment in the 16th century, and Louis Brabant, became the first known ventriloquist while serving as the valet to the French King Francis I. Although ventriloquist figures or dummies had not become a thing yet, I do find it noteworthy that this ventriloquist dummy on the show appeared to our French character Jade Herrera, and I'm curious to see how this thing comes into play. So there it is, my prediction for who is in the cart, an overview of my theory, along with some new clues and theories about necromancy and the ventriloquist dummy. And I'll leave you with one more musical prediction. I think that the classic record by Steelers Will, Stuck in the Middle with You, will make an appearance on the series. That's just a hunch. Anyway, just a little something to think about while we wait on the next episode. That's all for my video today. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.